morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Big Local Podcast because we are Black, Global, and we are local. Your girl Fatu is still away on holiday in the Gambia, but she'll be joining us soon. So today I decided to, invite a few ladies to talk about, Africans working in Africa. For so many years, we know about, Africans working in other parts of the world, in Europe, in Asia, and wherever. But what about us working in other African countries? So I invited a few friends so that they come and, tell us their experiences of working in the different areas. So I have two interesting ladies, Primera and Priscilla, and I would like them to, come on and tell us a few things about themselves. Things like where were you born? What did you enjoy as a child? Did you ever think you would, work in another African country? Ladies, over to you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for the invite to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Primera.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for the invite. Looking forward to the chat.
So, ladies, so tell us a bit about yourselves. Where were you born? What kind of family, childhood? What were your dreams? Was working in another country? What was your dream?
Primera, do you want to go
You
first?
can go first.
I'll leave Primera to go first.
So I live in Uganda. I'm a resident, like officially, and I was born in Kenya so many years ago, and I grew up there. But I could say I grew up there until I was about 15. Because I moved to Uganda at that age, I've been living here for quite a while. And so in that space, I was born of two amazing parents, very loving parents. My mom was a teacher; she was a high school teacher, and my dad was a lecturer at the university with a major in mechanical engineering. And I think that's where my love for tech began. My mom was a chemistry and mathematics teacher at high school. So basically, both parents were scientists. So, like, naturally, science came home, like, literally because of both parents. So I was raised there. My mom was also was a very entrepreneur. She had a business after a business, and she was all great with so many business ideas. So I grew up around scientists and entrepreneurs. So as I was in high school, my mom being a high school teacher, I was not very good with languages or what you call. And in Kenya, it's very interesting because English and Kiswahili is done up to high school. Like, it's not optional at all. Like, when you start P1 until the day you finish high school, you have to do both English and Kiswahili, and both in grammar and literature. You must do both. It's not optional.
I like that
in
system.
Uganda, literature is a subject on its own. In Kenya, that's not a subject on its own. It comes with the grammar, like, it's compulsory. So at high school, I had quite a bit of issues in terms of the languages. Okay. Also, my mom had no strength in languages, so I don't understood me really, really well. So she was like, my friend, there's this country whose education system is amazing, but you don't have to do this language thing that is giving you quite a hard time. I was so excited. I was like, when am I packing my bag? And that's how I ended up in Uganda. So I ended up in Uganda, and can you believe English and literature are separate? Can you believe it? And I didn't have to do Kiswahili as a language or Kiswahili literature. Okay, it's for real. Across the border. That's how life
Different
is.
struggles.
So I happily came to Uganda. I started from S3 It was quite of a shock for me in the academic system. It's very similar yet very different. So there's so much stuff. So in Kenya, the high school is compressed in 4 years, but you're doing the same syllabus that Uganda does in 6 years. It's not different. It's literally the same, but it's been pulled out. It's one is compressed within 4 years and one is given 6 years. I prefer the Ugandan system, honestly, because a child has enough time to understand the system within 6 years. So I came and there's so much I had to drop, so much I had to add, but it was really, really interesting. So I finished S4. Then I went to King's College Budo for A-level. I was the only foreigner in the whole school. And another shocking experience. I started, that was the first time I literally had to learn Luganda because when I first came, I was in an international school. English was the language. There were so many foreigners, and it was okay. You blend in. Oh, so when we're choosing schools at S4, guys are like, you put Budo, put Gayaza High School, you'll get. I got in. I reported to Budo, and the shock was something else. The food, the lifestyle, the language. Oh my gosh. So I was like, let me adjust and do my 2 years. And then after 2 years, I'll go back home, right? I'll have finished S6, right? So I go to King's College Budo. I enjoy that hill. Morning church on Saturday. Being girls, boys. There's a lot. The school has a lot of rich history. But I did not understand what I had put myself into. And so I finished my 2 years. And the school is very rich. And in terms of richness, I don't mean the academic part of it. Even the environment, even it was very hard for me to adjust, but it gave me, I would like to say, a step forward in so many areas of my life. And when we finished S6, I packed my bags and go home. I was 59 kilos. That's how bad it was. So I go home and my mom looks at me and like, are you my daughter? What's going on? I was like, you go. I had to adjust to a new kind of diet. You know what? They used to cook very nice food on Sunday dinner, matoke and donut sauce. That's how I learned to eat that. Trust me, when I grew up, there is no matoke and granite sauce, like nothing. It's not that it exists. So that's why I learned to eat that food. But I was so skinny, so small, I had to adjust to a very new environment. So the results came out. After the results came out, they have given me telecommunications engineering at Makerere. And if I am going to go back to Kenya, means I have to do pre-university. It was a bit of a challenge. And another secret you don't know is that uni in Uganda is much cheaper than private university in Kenya, even if I'm Kenyan. So at the end of the day, your parents is like, should I pay for good quality education? There's nothing wrong with Makerere University at all. It's rated highly. There's nothing wrong with it. So at the end of that day, the school fees is much cheaper. There's nothing wrong with it. So what do? You go back to Makerere. That's how the decision for me to come back start. I'm like, okay, let me go and do this 4-year degree. And also, engineering degrees in Kenya are 5 years, not 4 years.
Oh, really?
Yes, they are 5. So it saves me a year and I still go to a good university.
Yeah.
So I come back in 4 years. But my 4 years were not as difficult as the A-level side, because now I have adjusted. I can pick up a little bit on the language. I'm able to survive now. So I did my 4 years. I had a very amazing team. That's when I met everybody from all different schools. And surprisingly, from school, we were only 4 girls at A-level who did combination of physics, chemistry, mathematics, and I did technology. We were only 4 girls in a class of 44. So that means when I came to uni first year, I was the only girl with 27 boys who came to do telecom. Yes, literally. So I get to Macquarie University with my 26 boys from high school. And yeah, we start another journey of 4 years of uni. And then when I finished in 2009, in May, I get a job at MTN Uganda in October of the same year.
Nice.
So I never left. Like it's just everything just cascaded. And so after I started working at MTN Uganda, I literally tried to get a job in Kenya, but I could not get. I tried in Safaricom, I tried everywhere. Like I could not get a job. So I get a job at MTN Uganda. It's a nice job. It's what I trained. It's what I learned. And 12 years later, I'm still working for the same company. I enjoy what I do. As in, it looks like a big company, but a place that allows you to be you, to do your work, to do whatever you want. That's what it has been. So in those 12 years, I got married to a Ugandan. I had 2 children who carry a Ugandan passport. So I am here, I think, to stay for life, really, literally. So for me, it's been quite interesting. It's been a very interesting journey. It's not just about working. It's been getting married, having in-laws, and my in-laws are from Uganda, so I have to learn Uganda well.
Okay.
So I'm not very perfect at it, but I hear a lot of it. I hear a lot of it. I am able to speak to the children at least in something little language in their language. For me, it's very important for children to learn a local language. So for me, it's been very like you have to learn. So in the process, I have to learn it, and it's been very very interesting. Like in so many ways, like understanding a culture. I find Uganda very rich in culture. I'm not. I apologize from where I came from. We are a bit too westernized, and Uganda is very rich in culture. I enjoy the traditional clothes. I get to wear gomesi, shanana, everything. Like I try. But for me, I'm tribeless when I live here, so I get to try everything, like everything. So when I have an introduction, I just pick what I want to wear. I don't have to wear a gomesi, do I? No. I try from all the tribes in Uganda. I'm like, what do you guys wear? Let me try that. And for me, it's been like it's like being a child again, like all over again, like trying, experimenting, learning new culture, new types of food, learning to make luombo. Yes, I can make it, by the way.
Priscilla, can you make luombo?
Yes,
Side eye. Side eye.
Yeah, so it's been a very very interesting journey of learning, relearning, and then when I go back home in Kenya, it's like, okay, now I learned this, like my home, like even the diet changed in Kenya, like what we eat changed, because when we go back, there's an expectation of what we are used to eating. Then you kind of change even how the home prepare food, how you do different things in the home, like it literally changed. Yeah, so that's my summarized version of my experience. It's for me, it's been very very diverse in terms of work. It has helped, they speak about diversity, but diversity is very easy for me, because like when you're integrating diversity, like in the workplace, for me, I even don't realize people's tribes culture. Like for me, it's never the first thing. Like I can work with someone for years and someone asks me, what tribe are they? And I'm like, wait a minute, I even have no idea. Yeah, so being here it makes you very working for me in Uganda has made me very, I'm not sensitive to so many things. Are you up? Like, who are you? Your name, and then we move. Like, it never really bothers me so much, because I do not carry any
Strong
perceived
attachment
idea about a certain tribe, a certain people. Like, I don't have it. Like, you don't have it. You just work with people. You do work with, you delegates. You try to get new ideas on board. It's like one of those things that never really bothers me. Yeah. So that's me in short. Yeah.
So for you, you're more or less a naturalized Ugandan.
Literally. Literally,
Priscilla.
I could say I've lived here for about 20 years. Like literally. Yeah.
Priscilla, what's your story? Hmm? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Wow, I was just enjoying Primera's story. It's amazing how she loves Uganda and I love Kenya. I keep joking that one day I may just pack my bags and relocate to Kenya because I love the sea.
I think many Ugandans would like to relocate.
Yeah, so for me, it's purposely because I love the sea, and I love being able to have the sea and the safari in one. So yeah, but nice to hear your story, Premier, and I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying Uganda. It's really nice that Yeah, so my story, where do I start from? I usually work best with a few questions, pointers.
The
But
beginning.
the beginning, I come from a very small family. How many children are we? I have to count on the hands. I don't know offhand. I don't talk about my family that much. But how do I say? My mom was. I don't know how to talk about my family. It's just a long story. But I'll talk about. So I went to school with Liz, with Murungi. Sorry. I went to school in Mount St. Mary's Namagunga, and my primary school, of course, was St. Teresa, the sister school. So I think that laid the foundation for me just to dream and just to want to explore, because we received children from different parts of the country, and we went to school with people from different. We had Indians, we had people from different Gulu, Kabale, everyone from everywhere. So it was a very rich experience. And then when I moved to high school, similar experience. Of course, you move with a few people from your school because we are sister schools and everything. But also, I think in primary we grew up looking up to the girls in the. We used to call them across. Yes. So we used to go to the secondary schools to like have, what do they call them, like Christmas carols and watch plays and stuff like that, drama. So we used to see all these elegant older girls and how they're wearing the skirts, and I'm like, oh my god, one day, of course, you want to be part of that school. So yeah, that's how I ended up in Mount St. Mary's. I think actually I didn't pass as well. I think I was supposed to go to Nabingo, but then somehow, somewhere, those things of someone who knows someone who knows someone. I ended up in Namagunga, and I honestly, I think my mom could not have it any other way because all the girls in my family were supposed to go to Namagunga. So she was like, no, 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 no.
There's
You're
no
going to
way.
break the culture
culture.
of going to Nabingo. And Nabingo is not a bad school, but I think for her it was just important that all of us have a similar sort of background because she went to Namagunga, everyone. So yeah, and I think that's how my life really started. And yeah, I went to the university. I went
So
to
for
Makerere
Primera,
University. Yeah.
looks like for her she was just thrown into this foreign country thing.
Yeah, she
About
was thrown into it.
when you went
Um,
to the university, what happened? Is that why you started having dreams? Or maybe you want to maybe go to another country? I don't know.
that's a good question. I think for me, it was I think from literature. So unlike Primera who struggled with literature, I excelled at literature because she is a scientist. Now I'm a typical artist. My mom was a sculptor, and so I take a lot of her creative energy from her. And my dad was a scientist, but unlike Primera, we exchanged. So my dad was very good at sciences, and I suck at sciences. Mathematics was, I got I think a C4. Well, yeah, I think a C4, C5, was it a C6, I think, and we cut a chicken. Like that's how
How
bad
bad
it
it
was.
was.
Yeah, and there was no way I was going to do any scientist. But I literally grew up reading a lot of books at home. We had a big library of books. So I think it's just in the books I started getting curious about life outside Uganda. My mom had books. I think in the time when our parents grew up, there was a whole Pan-African thing. So there were so many books from different African writers, Wole Soyinka. There were books from I think Leopold Senghor. I remember then there was, books about, most of them were most were from East Africa and a bit, not so, I didn't know so much about South Africa, and which was weird that that's where I started from in terms of my experiences. But yeah, so I was very curious about life outside the country from the books and also from the novels that we read, the Mills and Boons and stuff like that. So I was very curious to see what is out there, like beyond Uganda. How do people live? What? So for me, it was just a form of wanderlust, and dreaming. And then I also had we had like neighbors who graduated and went to study abroad. So they would write to their parents letters and stuff and explaining how life is. And we're like, oh my God, okay, so they're eating cheese. Oh, they're eating yogurt, they're eating all this canned food, and they're talking about going on these dances and with boys and stuff like that. So I was very curious as a child. And when I went to the university, I met professors, some of my lecturers who had also studied and trained abroad. So that even cemented my interest further. And then I remember actually in high school, before even I went to university, I started reading about studying abroad, because I think I realized, okay, so if these girls went, that means it's the easiest way to go. So I started reading about doing SATs and, all these girls only schools. Yeah, there was that craze, right? So I don't even know how it started. So I started researching into it. And then my mom said, there is no way I'm shipping you up to anywhere. You're too young to be on your own because, so you're going to finish here, grow up a bit, and then you can go. And I'm really glad that happened because unlike Primera, who came at 15, I don't think I would have survived on my own at 15. I was a very sheltered girl. Even going to town, we would go with our parents. So imagine now me being shipped up to another country on my own at 15. I would not be able to manage. So yeah, so I think I went to the university, and all this time the interest is growing. And I think for me it was when I took international human rights law that my desire even bloomed more. Because now we're reading about cases from different countries, and we're reading about international treaties and how these sets negotiate and stuff like that. So I got so interested in that, and I figured, you know what? What's the harm? What's the harm? The harm is in, moving. So I started nurturing ambitions of working abroad, and I honestly, for me, it started out just as a thing, like a joke. I'm like, let me see how where this played. Let's try it out because I'm those people. It was not. I didn't know whether it would happen soon or later, but I knew one day I'd probably, travel and just see. So yeah, that's how my desire to work abroad and live started. And I think it's also just when you talk to people who are abroad and you're like, oh, okay, it's not so bad, it's not so scary, you can survive, because as a young woman, you won't die. And also because for me, I'm not so much, I don't attach so much importance to food. I eat what is there. Like in terms of the place, I really adapt. I'm an amoeba. I think because of my character, I adapt pretty quickly. So when I heard that it's not that bad, they don't kill people, they don't eat people, I was like, okay, let's go. There are no lions, there's no man eaters, savo, I'm like, okay, fine, let's do this. So yeah, I think that's how my interest in living abroad started.
So for Primera, her parents were happy and ready to ship her off to the next country. Like they had no
I mean, I must give
they
Primera's
had
parents.
no, I don't know, fears. But I would like to ask, because you hear about some countries, You're like, oh, this country, they're like this. This country, they're like this and like that. So maybe for prepare, I don't know if at that age you remember any biases about Uganda. While Priscilla, I don't know now, are there any biases or strange things you heard about Senegalese before you moved?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe I think for Primera probably her story maybe a little bit because she was much younger. She was, I mean, 15. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I mean, yeah. But for me, I moved. My first time I moved from home was in 2014. That was the first time I stayed long away. Yeah. So I went to South Africa to study, and this was all self orchestrated. We are very independent at home, like super independent. My one of my brothers moved to Canada, self exile, is now a resident. So we are very My mom raised us in a very independent way. As long as you inform her and you let her know and she knows where you are and you're safe and you're keeping in touch, she has no problem. So when I went and told her that, look, I am going to study abroad, she was super shocked. She's like, you're going to study abroad? Who's paying? I like, okay, what do we need to do? I said, you don't need to do anything. Everything is covered. She was like, what? No, 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 no. I told her I have a scholarship, it's fully paid, my tickets are paid, everything. She was super shocked. But also she wasn't shocked because I think I've been lucky and privileged to go through school on, government scholarships throughout. So I think she last paid for me in S6. After that, everything was, scholarships. So I think that made sense to her. She's like, oh, okay, fine. So personally, I didn't have any, about South Africa, of course, she was a bit scared because the stereotypes at that time were all these sangomas and there's a xenophobia, and they say that they don't like foreigners and stuff like that. And I think it's the crime rate that scared her the most. Because when you do a quick Google search on South Africa, the first thing that will come up are rape of a woman, murder, so she was extremely scared. And also because we didn't have any relative in South Africa that she could probably stay or, take care of her, look out for her. So, but a good thing, I think we had a classmate, she was called Aggie. Aggie had studied in Cape Town. So she was able to talk to her mom and ask her, okay, what was the situation? And I'm like, no, it's fine. She can take care of herself. She'll be fine. So for me, those were the stereotypes I think that my mom had about South Africa, about my other countries that I've worked in. I think as an adult, she's okay. I think the only thing is my mom could not distinguish Bangladesh from India.
I think we all can.
So every time she would watch on news, I think there was a time when there was a cyclone Funi that hit India really badly. And at that time, I was in Bangladesh. So my mom calls me in the middle of the night. Time zone is really, I think, almost 8 hours. Very crazy. So she calls me and I'm like, oh my God, is everything fine at home? Like, when you receive a phone call at that weird hour of the time, you're like, oh my God. And then she's like, I saw news, Al Jazeera, they're talking about the cyclone. Are you safe? I'm like, Mommy, I'm not in India. I'm in Bangladesh. So, and then I think the first time I told a few people, oh, I'm going to Bangladesh, when we used to grow up, Bangladesh, we used to say it like as a derogatory, an abuse, silly Bangladesh, you get. So she was like, oh, it's actually a country. I'm like, yes, Mommy, it's a country. So I think, yeah, and that's all. The other countries, my mom didn't know much about Senegal. I knew much about Senegal, but she didn't. So she didn't have any, I think for her it was just about, oh, it's in West Africa, it's near home. So she didn't have any stereotypes towards that.
So for you, Primera, your parents also didn't have any fear.
There are two things that happened. One, we had a family friend, a couple who had kids who are Ugandans who are working in Kenya, but their children were still here. So their parents didn't want to move their children to study in Kenya. First of all, because they were working for the UN at the time and they kept moving around, but they wanted the children to stay in one place. So they were the first ones who created the interest for my mom, and these children can move to Uganda, it's all right. But we didn't know anyone here. We don't have family here, nothing. Then the other stereotype, I believe it's true, was at the time in Kenya, many ladies would leave Uganda to work as house helps in Kenya. It was really, yes, they would. And it was always said, it's still said, that Ugandan women are very humble and nice. And they make amazing house helps. So Kenya, even today, that's the feeling. They're like, Kenyan girls, you're very rough, you're not very respectful, but basically Ugandan women are very respectful, humble, and so that's the vibe. Like when I grew up, that's how I would feel people would say. So the families that had maids that had come from Uganda had no complaints whatsoever. Yeah. So at the time, that was the vibe. Uganda is a nice country, very peaceful. Yeah. Yeah. I've turned out like that. I'm very calm. I don't know if it's because of my nature or because of living in Uganda. So when I go back home, everyone like the first week, everyone is like, let's first listen to your accent. Because honestly, okay, I had to adapt. So some words I have intentionally learned to pronounce them the way Ugandans do, so that people don't pick up where I come from. It's very intentional. So that I just like there's a guy I worked with last year. I said I was going to Kenya in October. Then he's like, "Oh, we worked for 5 years. That's the date hit him. I was Kenyan. He had no idea. That's how. That's how
That's how
I've
good
changed.
you've got.
Like you can't tell unless I tell you. You can't tell. But
Uh-huh.
it's very intense because I don't want people to treat me different. I just
Yeah.
want to blend in, and I don't want anyone to just basically think of me like I'm different. I come from a different place. So that's how I ended up in Uganda. Basically, it was just a recommendation from a family friend. But from where I come from, there is nothing negative about Ugandans generally. Guys love Uganda. Yeah, they talk about okay, the nice food. Um, yeah, they say we eat a lot of food. How can you have so much variety? Um, where I come from, people don't put a lot of effort on foods. Apologies. No, Ugandans put effort on food, my friend. There is no cooking just. There
Just
is a
for
lot of
just.
thought process within food. Yeah, so like you guys, you can just eat so much in one meal. How do you manage? How do you do this? Yeah, I've gotten used. Yeah,
So I
yeah,
see
but
for you, Primera, you have, like, as you said, you came young, you had to adopt and all these things. But for those who probably found out that you were Kenyan, did they ever treat you, like an outsider of sorts? Did you
I
ever feel
haven't
like
felt
a
that.
foreigner in Africa, yet we all look alike?
In Uganda, no.
Mm-hmm.
In Uganda, no. Particularly in Uganda, I haven't felt any different. Um, Ugandans are really warm people. And maybe in terms of language, not being able to understand the language, I feel like people expect you to learn it. That's the only vibe. Like at least get to understand the few words that we speak. That's all. I haven't felt different because I was Kenyan. No, I haven't. Um, just that communication is rather hard with like one generation.
Ah, okay,
Like
okay.
yeah, like
Yeah, yeah. What about on the flip side?
like if I
Have you been maybe treated in a special way because you're not Ugandan?
yeah, okay. First, in school, yes. Like in school, yes, a bit. But not as such. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like Uganda is very it treats everyone very neutrally. I haven't even had other foreigners treated special or different. The only place where I have had to be different is like in terms of immigration. Okay, like in terms of me being a resident in Uganda, but even as being as a resident or doing the processes of at immigration, the embassy actually it's Kenya that treats me different, not Uganda. So today, if I want to be served by an embassy in Kenya, they won't agree. They will tell me, but you live in Uganda. You
Oh,
need to be
really?
served by an embassy in Uganda. Yes, I've been sent away by the German embassy in Kenya because I have not lived in Kenya for 6 continuous months. And they say, no, you need to be served by the embassies here. The South African embassy, for example, does not even charge me a visa fee because I'm Kenyan. Just my passport alone, I am not charged because it is something that comes with being Kenyan. So in Kenya, you're not charged visa fees too. You just processing fees and that's it. But even when I'm here, they acknowledge I'm Kenyan and they treat me as if I'm in Kenya. Yeah. So I get treated as if I'm in Kenya here, especially by embassies or by the immigration. They are very helpful, very nice. I have not had issues. I have to travel sometimes with the children alone who are carrying different passports than me, and the immigration is still really nice and helpful. They have never said no, you can cross with the kids because they have very clear guidelines which you have to follow and no issues at the airport. Yeah.
Do you work with birth certificates?
No, actually, I don't work with them. And I I have traveled, I've crossed the border a lot for the last 20 years. And what I can say is that the immigration department has grown tremendously. As in, it's like today and 20 years ago, there's no comparison. Like when I cross, they can check my history. Have I moved with the children before? They know that I'm their parent. They have no issues. Yeah, they're able to do some small background check at least on me. And yeah.
Priscilla, what about you? Have you felt like an outsider in the African countries you've been at, especially where you work?
Mm, I think for me, my situation is a bit different because, I know in the countries that I'm in, I'm not there to stay for too long. So with my work, I stay maximum probably 3 years. So I it's like you're a perpetual tourist of sorts. Of course, you sort of absorb the culture and everything, but because you're an expatriate, which I hate that word, but you sort of know that you're not there for too long. So in Senegal, for example, I'm told I look Senegalese. So most times when I'm in the market or what, they speak to me in Wolof. And I think that, as Primera said, the challenge is the language. I blend in very well. They're tall, they're lean and dark, and I fit the mold. So most times they'll speak to me in Wolof, and when I can't speak, they think, "Oh, you grew up in the US? Are you?" So they think that I'm Senegalese who didn't grow up in Senegal. And I'm like, I'm actually non-Senegalese, so I can't even hear a word of Wolof. I can greet and everything, but because Wolof, the dialect is unlike any dialect in Uganda that I grew up listening to and hearing. So my tongue and my ear is not at all able to pick up. So and I'm also not that good at learning new languages. I'm struggling with French already, and I can't add another language. So I've not been treated as an outsider, but I have been treated as a foreigner, but not in a derogatory manner. It's because I think Senegal is it's like they call them the land of Teranga. There's lots of foreigners here, lots of Black Americans who are coming back to set up shop here. There's a huge international community. So they're so used to meeting people who are non Senegalese. So in that way, I have not experienced a bad form of a negative vibe. But of course, when you're in the market, they'll try to hike the price because they know you can't speak Wolof. Of course, so you pay almost double everywhere. The taxi, the cab guys will try to charge you a little bit more because they can tell from your French you're not a francophone, and some of them can also try to speak Wolof and you can't speak. So sometimes I'm like, I speak my broken French, and then they can pick it up. So in terms of cost of paying staff, you pay a little bit more because they can tell you're non-Senegalese. But I've not, but also because we are working from home a lot. So in terms of my colleagues, we are in touch online, so you don't get to experience that typical office vibe to know how colleagues would behave. So yeah, but I can't say that I've been treated in a negative way. But of course, they can tell I'm a foreigner. But they're also very huge on Pan-Africanism, and we are all sisters and brothers. We are all Black people. So even if they find out, oh, you're from Uganda, they're very knowledgeable. That most of them that I've met, they know about Uganda, they know about Museveni, they know about Kampala, and they engage you in the politics. So it's not other for the sake of other, but they say, okay, you're different, but we still welcome you. So even in the market, they'll be like, oh no, we are brothers and sisters, and if you're a Black person. So whenever you're negotiating, like, well, you're my sister. So So I'll give you a little bit of a better, even if you know he's not really giving you a good price. But so in Senegal, no, I've not really felt like an outsider except for the language. So if I could speak the language, I'd be good to go. Yeah.
Blend in
Yeah, I would blend
effortlessly.
in effortlessly. Yeah.